My name is Adam. I spent about an entire summer and then some, a little bit of the spring, just talking to girls and trying to get their numbers and cold approaching. This was basically the first thing I did after, having basically no experience with girls before this. So given that kind of, unique experience of just kind of going from literally never would talk to a girl to getting to where I am now, I want to kind of share my, final thoughts on, this topic. And so much so that I'm actually going off of just, Instagram and TikTok, and this is going to be my first YouTube video. So, yeah. So first I'll give you a little bit of, background, and then I'll give you, my points, things that not everyone thinks of when cold approaching, because I know a lot of people, want to get into it. So, yeah. And so I'll just get on with sort of where I started. So I think like most people, I kind of had this moment where I was almost a little bit screw this, I'm just gonna, start cold approaching, because I was thinking to myself, just obviously, what I'm doing now, I'm not doing anything. And I think, weirdly enough, I think the catalyst for this was homecoming, because most people complain about seeing couples, and because they think it's annoying or whatever. But for me, for whatever reason, that lit a fire under me. I'm they can all do it, I haven't. What's up with that? And so that was the fall. In the winter, I was just super reluctant to do it. The very first time I actually talked to a girl was actually at a cross-country meet, funny enough. If any of you high school runners have ever heard of NXR, Nike Midwest Regional, that's the first time. And my what the kids would call riz was pretty bad. I did end up having some moderate success, but it was but even then it was rough. I would not say what I said now. If anything, I maybe even came off as mildly creepy. But yeah, that was the first time. And then a couple weeks later, I did it all. I tried to get a girl's number all by myself for the first time. And that, I feel is kind of the start of the snowball, right? Because when you do that, it's kind of oh, now I can do it whenever I want. Before, at the cross country meet in the fall, for example, I had to be annoyed into doing it. I had to be given an excuse to do it, right? I wanted to do it, but I just didn't, And so that's kind of, the first thing that happened. And then I think after that, I kind of stopped after a while. And then I found a group of friends, mostly coincidentally, that were really into cold approaching. So I ended up getting really almost obsessed over it. I think that's absolutely fair to say. I got obsessed over that. And what I, started to do, which I'll get into in a minute, I got to the point where it would be gotta talk to one a day. So kind of the first point that I'm going to get into is that you need to actually, and it seems pretty obvious, but you need to actually do the test, right? You need to actually, cold approach. You'll get people saying specific things, you need to say this exact line. But the truth is that there's no perfect line, right? There is nothing that you can say that will guarantee anything. There's nothing that you can say that is, I'll take that back. I was going to say there's nothing you can say that will guarantee that you mess up, but I'm sure that's not true. But the point is that this is one of the few cases where in the beginning, it really is quantity over quality, right? And that's the point I was making earlier, that when I was, getting bigger into sort of cold approaching, like I said, I would do one a day. And that might be a lot for you. I would say that should be your first goal if you're brand new to this, which is who this is, kind of meant for, who this video is meant for. what I would say you should start off with is just start off being able to do it by yourself, right? Because, like I said earlier, because that means you can do whatever you want, right? You don't need someone to, amp you up like I did at the meet, like I said earlier. So that's, the first thing. And that's going to take a while. That's going to be like a lot of, thinking. But once you get to that, I would say start focusing on, then once you can do it by yourself, start focusing on, quantity. And then once you have that, I would strongly recommend that maybe, you find some friends that are really big into it. Because then if it's just you and a bunch of your guy friends, I'm telling you right now you can make it like a thing. And then it's not like as weird. Like, obviously, the idea of, just asking for a girl's number, especially like a stranger, is always going to be pretty weird and uncomfortable. But it's just what you're doing. And it kind of becomes a little bit more normalized, which is absolutely what you need, by the way. And it's also just fun. Like, genuinely, like, I'm debating whether I should say this. I noticed that for whatever reason, the less success I have, the more fun I have. And yeah, that's not, a perfect correlation, but I noticed there's a small correlation towards that. And I think it's just that, like, I'm less focused on girls and more focused on having fun, which I just think that's pretty funny. But I mean, yeah, absolutely, just because that's, like, another thing people don't, like, talk about. But, like, this isn't an original take, but, like, most people just do not go outside enough, right? Most people don't go out. They don't have fun. And you don't need to, spend a bunch of money to do this, but it's just saying that, like, if you, are never out or never, then of course no one's going to like you because you come off as boring. So that's kind of the first thing I would really suggest. But yeah. Most I guess kind of common concern is, approaching anxiety is, oh man, I really want to do it, but I'm just scared, right? I'm just scared. And to that I'll say that obviously that's completely legit. I think that's very common. But I have some quick, advice just for all those people, which is, first of all, you don't have to, like, be 100% comfortable with everything you do, right? You don't go to the gym and you're 100% comfortable with everything you lift, right? I didn't, go on a run, this afternoon, and I wasn't 100% comfortable with the pace, right? I'm getting faster on my easy runs. I used to run not 7:30s. Now I'm running 7:20 pace, right? Like, that's not, 100% comfortable for me, but, it makes me better, right? So the first thing is that obviously you don't have to be 100% comfortable, but you already knew that. You're a smart fellow. So I'll give you a little more, and I made some notes here if you're wondering why I keep looking that way. Which is just, most people think way too much. I made a joke with my friends just recently that there are no, pictures and videos. Well, there's plenty of pictures and videos of them, talking to girls, or none of me doing it. And it's because it's basically never, it's never planned, right? I see, someone, I'm like, okay, they seem nice, and I just go for it. Like, someone said that I look like a missile because I'm just so focused. Yeah, I go for it. No warning. No one gets any warning. And yes, so that's another thing. And then, but the thing is, if you're starting out, which again is what I'm trying to attract here, it actually doesn't matter what happens if you get rejected or, I guess, accepted, right? Because what you get to have is basically you win no matter what. When you start out, the goal isn't even like, oh, what's going to happen? Forget that. The goal is, can you go out there and make it happen, right? And that's something that I don't think people realize initially, but that is absolutely the goal. It is not at all, oh, I'm going to, I'm going to be so, I'm going to do everything perfectly. You're not going to do everything perfectly. So, so something that's really common is, of course, what if I come off as creepy? If you're not worried about if she's going to say yes or no, or I guess he, if you're gay, not there's anything wrong with that. But, you know, if she's going to say, yes or no, or he, you know, what if I just come off as creepy? Which is absolutely fair, right? For example, I am 6'1". The average woman's probably what, like, in my country, probably like, I don't know, I'll say 5'6". I know I'm shooting kind of high, but like, think about that. That's 6 inches taller than the average woman. That's a big difference for me. And even if you're just like, if you're a little, closer to average, if you're like 5'10" or 5'9", which is, I believe 5'8" is average for men in the U.S. That's still like a big, size difference. So absolutely, there's kind of that going on. But another thing is nobody ever comes off, as creepy if you're just like flattering, right? If you, use some pickup line that you heard from some, red pill, pickup artist, then yeah, you might, someone might think you're creepy, whatever. But if you just, and this is again something I did a lot, if you just like go up like, oh, I just, happen to see you, you have, this level of transparency, and then, you give her, a compliment, or him again, a compliment. I don't think I need to do that every time. Then no one's ever gonna, react too harshly. You'll never get like a super, polarizing, super negative response. And that's something that I think is actually very reassuring. But now I've given you this advice, I'll give you kind of a funny story. So I was chilling with a friend, right? And we're out by some like, some grocery store messing around, being teenagers. And he goes to the bathroom. And so it's just me alone. And I see someone and I'm like, yeah, like, this is not really, anyone to see this. I might as well just go for it. And so, I shoot my shot. I get rejected. But for whatever reason, I just, like, paused. Like she said no, and I just kind of, like, stand there. And, like, my brain just turns off. It was the weirdest thing. It just turns off. And, she had a friend there, and she assumed I just wasn't taking it well. And that's when I got, like, probably, like, my harshest, rejection ever. And it wasn't anyone's fault, right? She was, being, defensive and protective. And I was just standing there, like, right? So, definitely, yeah, that's something to keep into consideration. But no one ever really, if you're just transparent with people and, you're not, I guess, I don't know if I would say you need to be yourself. I really don't know how I would put it. But if it's obvious that you're not lying, right? If you're just you, I guess, if that makes sense. I really don't know how to put it, but yeah, that's what I would say. Just be nice, be genuine, and, that'll come off, and in time, like, you'll have, more confidence, so it'll be less likely that, you come off having, bad intentions. But yeah, just keep in mind that there's absolutely possibility that, like, if you don't know what you're doing, you might come off as creepy. So when in doubt, just be, like, highly flattering, no girl's ever told me off because I saw her from far away and I thought she looked beautiful. So now that I'm, kind of done giving all, like, the advice I can just think of right off the top of my head, just everything that would just kind of make it easier to make that transition if you wanted to, I'm going to get into just kind of some things that I learned about myself that, changed. So the first thing is, like, if you do it a lot, people talk about, like, oh, don't focus on, relationships, focus on, friendships first. And I suppose to some degree that's absolutely valid. But when it comes to, like, I guess being, more social, because I got, oh, you're so introverted, you need to be more social, and then you'll do great. You'll be a star. That obviously did not end up being true. All right. If anything, it ended up weirdly being the other way around. What, kind of ended up happening was that once I got more into cold approaching, I became more social. And I became, slightly more extroverted. Not a ton. I'm still, I'll come back from a night out and I'll just, like I'm just exhausted. I'm still a pretty introverted guy, but I'm definitely a lot, different, and I think it's because a lot of that, I guess, moderate social anxiety is just, like, it's just gone when you do stuff like that. And what I'll say is that your confidence obviously, goes up, because it's like, if you can do that, you can do anything, right? And I think more than anything, you kind of get this this idea that if you just see someone that, you like and you want to strike up a conversation for whatever reason, you can always just do it. Like, it's not just like, oh, I really want to do it, but I can't. And you don't really have that mental torture anymore, which is really, really nice. People don't talk about that. They just, they make videos of themselves, influencers, I mean. They make, like, videos of themselves and they're, oh, I'm talking to, this random stranger, and then, oh, look at how, cool I am, buy my program, or whatever they do. And it's been a while since I've watched one of those videos, but yeah, you'll get, a lot of that, but you don't really get a lot of, sort of the mental, what happens to you mentally, because obviously, when you do this, you become the kind of person that would do that, which is why you become more confident, right? And the last thing, it kind of goes off of what I said, but a lot of people, a lot of big influencers will say, oh, guys, especially guys that don't get girls, put women on a pedestal. And I'm like, cool. But I realized most people aren't very good at explaining what that actually means. So I'll explain for you what that actually means. What it means is this. I'll give you a story for this one. The very first time I ever did it, or the first handful of times I ever, cold approached in order to get, a number. First handful of times I was thinking, is this even real? This is really happening. And I remember just thinking, like, what? I'm actually doing this. And that's kind of the best example I can think of. Because, yeah, people know what it means, but they can't really imagine it, because a lot of, these people, and realize it's kids watching these kinds of videos, it's going to be a lot of, straight teenage, 12-year-old boys, right, watching my video, and I'm fine with that. But, to those people who don't really know any different, that's what people mean when they say, putting women on a pedestal. And sometimes, it's more extreme. Like, I know a couple of years ago there was the whole, like, simp trend, and people were talking about simping, and, these really extreme examples of, I think there's, like, one guy who just, like, he just gave, like, hundreds and thousands of dollars, things like that, right? But, that's probably some of the greatest benefits. And so, just going to get back to one last thing here that I have on my notes, and then that last thing is this. Like I said earlier, there's kind of there's a lot of ideas that you'll get on the internet, because I remember, I'm going to get slightly personal here, I remember when I was kind of, a bit younger, trying to, figure things out. In time, I would go on to sort of find answers in, the self-improvement community. But since I was younger, it wasn't really what it is now. Like, you can find, like, some decent people on there, and specifically YouTube, because this is where most of this is going. But for the most part, it was just kind of like this vague, like, vague kind of quote-unquote red pill, if anyone's ever heard of that, advice. But for the most part, doesn't work, and you get all these, conflicting opinions, and you're not even really going anywhere, in my opinion. But one thing that I think you realize more than anything for sure is that the ideas of sort of the quote unquote black pill that all that matters is looks. If you do not have perfect genetics, you're done for. I can, like, you literally go outside, like, as stupid as this sounds, like, you literally go outside, right? You go outside and you realize there is no way that is true, right? Like, just, like, this sounds really harsh, but, like, the black pill is, like, all about, like, looks, right? You'll get people, saying, oh, women date up or whatever. And it's just, and you'll go outside and it's just like, it's just normal people. I can't even explain it. It's just normal people. And you think to yourself, like, like what? Like but you told me something else, So definitely, I'm going to kind of, I'm going to get off my soapbox real quick. So this is all I really have to say. I am not, going to market myself as a traditional self-improvement channel, because I'm not. I'm very young. I have a lot to learn. And honestly, I think anyone that is telling you that they have the answers for everything, while I think there's some really good advice out there, that's not a recipe for success. You can't just, even if 99% of the time you really do have the best advice, it's no good, right? You can't, just follow a person like that blindly. Because the 1% of the time that they're wrong, it's going to suck, right? So I'll say, I am not a self-improvement guy. I am a self-improving guy, right? I am a self-improving channel. I love talking about this stuff. I got super interested in it a couple years ago. But by no means am I, gonna, say that I know the answers. Yeah, so kind of as a bit of a funny coincidence, I actually just went out with my friends, did a little bit of cold approaching. I didn't do a lot of that, but it was all right. I enjoyed it. And yeah, so I just got home. I'm gonna start filming all the stuff that I already made. But yeah, so I'm just gonna transition this right to an interview I had with someone who's actually never really done it before. But yeah, you'll like him. This guy named Bo. He edits videos. He's a damn good editor. Excuse the French there, but he's really good at editing. He makes very kind of visually satisfying videos. So yeah, definitely we'll be sure to plug him out at the end, but definitely be sure to look at his stuff. But yeah, he's on Instagram. But yeah, here's the interview now, and I am going to finish recording. So you're kind of new to cold approaching girls. What was kind of your what's kind of your first reaction? What did you find hard?
The hardest thing, it's not even being nervous, it's just approaching the girl, telling your legs to move to the girl. Hardest part.
Yeah. You'd say, what was you had a couple of moments where you considered doing it. What would you say was the initial thought process right before
the moment,
right before you were gonna do it?
What am I gonna say? I literally go, what am I gonna say? And then my mind goes blank. So I think the only way you can really fix that is just by not thinking, just doing it. Just like Elijah said, just don't think.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just command your legs to move forward. And whenever you approach the girl, even if you say nothing, then you say nothing.
Yeah. So this is we're gonna plug you real quick because that's kind of the last question. I don't think I have anything else. Okay. Well, do you have any closing remarks? Do you have any anything like that?
Yeah. So today I did fail. I got 0 girls. I approached nobody. I feel super guilty. So something to learn for next time is just go for it. Just don't think about it because the regret's gonna be there anyways. So. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously he's very sort of new to this. I remember the first time I got I just went out with a bunch of friends, just like we kind of did here, and I remember I didn't get any numbers, and I remember just a flame kind of just erupted in me, and I was so just annoyed. And admittedly, I was almost kind of like competitive about it. And so definitely that's going to be like a, you know, that's kind of was a motivator for me. Hopefully it's the same for me. Yeah, we're going to plug you real quick and then we're going to be done. So just give us you go through like Insta, right? Edited by Bo?
I have an Instagram, so it's just my name. So BOLUCENKO.
Yeah.
There you go.
Help our boy out. He's on Instagram. Get some great edits if that's what you're looking for.